Welcome back to When Wounds Speak. We have followed the KEWHM Kristo emotional wound healing model journey from experience to meaning to wound, and today we arrive at belief. A wound does not remain silent. Over time, it begins to teach us something. It begins to teach us something about ourselves, about others, and about the world. So today we are asking you a central question. What beliefs have your wounds taught you? What beliefs have your wounds taught you? Not every belief we carry began as truth. Some began as an attempt to make sense of pain. And if a belief was learned through a wound, healing can help us examine whether that belief still deserves to guide our lives. A wound is what continues. A belief is what we begin to conclude because the wound continues. In episode 3, we asked what continues after the painful experience has passed. That helped us understand the wound. But wounds do not simply sit quietly inside us. We interpret them. We begin drawing conclusions about them, and those conclusions can become beliefs. A wound may say, "This hurt." A belief may say, "This is what this hurt means about me. This is what this hurt means about me." The distinction is essential, and please continue to make that distinction as we continue. Pain can certainly become a teacher. Pain asks, "What happened?" Meaning asks, "What does this mean?" Wound asks, "What continues inside me?" And belief then asks, "What have I come to believe about what happened?" Emotional wounds can become lenses. Those lenses influence how we interpret ourselves, how we interpret others, and the world. This is actually the heart of episode 4. Beliefs function like lenses. When the lens is clear, we can respond to what is actually happening. When the lens has been shaped by an unresolved wound, the present may be interpreted through the past. That does not mean every belief is false. It simply means that some beliefs deserve to be examined. The question we ask at that point is not simply, "What do I believe?" The question we ask is, "Where did I learn to believe that?" Let's return to Zenra and the belief beneath her strength. Her wound said, "When I need someone, I'm on my own." The belief said, "I cannot depend on people." Her independence did not begin as a personality flaw. It developed in a context. Again and again, when she needed comfort, she learned to manage alone. The wound was not simply that people disappointed her. The wound was what continued. When I need someone, I'm on my own. Over time, that wound taught a belief. The belief was, I cannot depend on people. Notice how reasonable that belief may have felt to her. It helped organize her world. It helped her avoid disappointment. But a belief can feel protective and still limit our lives. I repeat, a belief can feel protective and still limit our lives, especially our relationships. What Zenra's lens sees. An offer of help, her lens see, they think I can't handle it. When it comes to dependence, her lens see danger. When it comes to having a need, her lens see weakness. And when it comes to self-reliance, Zenra sees safety. Once a belief becomes a lens, ordinary moments begin passing through it. Someone offers help, like I said. Zenra does not necessarily hear kindness. Her lens may translate it as doubt. Whenever she feels a need, her lens may translate need as a weakness. Someone invites her to rely on them, her lens may translate dependence as danger. The belief is now doing more than describing the past. It's interpreting the present. Now let's consider Ahaz. His wound was maybe I was never really wanted. And the belief behind that became I'm not worth choosing. His father's absence left him with a different wound. The question underneath his pain became why didn't he stay? Over time, that question could become a conclusion. Maybe I was never really wanted. And that wound could teach an even broader belief. I'm not worth choosing. Again, no one had to say those words directly. Children often construct explanations for experiences they do not yet have the capacity to fully understand. Those explanations can follow them into adulthood. Now, let's look at what Ahaz's lens sees. When the belief is, I'm not worth choosing, uncertainty becomes difficult to tolerate. A delayed reply can feel like rejection. Distance can feel like abandonment. Ordinary conflict can feel like evidence that the relationship is ending. The present event may be small, but the belief gives it a much larger meaning. This is the reason reactions sometimes seem disproportionate from the outside. The person may not be reacting only to this moment. They may be reacting to what this moment appears to confirm, and it confirms an event from the past. There can be a same moment, but different beliefs. Let's explore further. The same moment can be filtered through very different beliefs. One person experiences a disagreement and thinks, we can work through this. Another thinks, this relationship is over. One person receives feedback and thinks, I can learn from this. But another hears, I'm not enough. The external event may be similar, but the internal story is different. Beliefs shape interpretation before behavior ever becomes visible. Three directions of belief. Wound-shaped beliefs tend to organize themselves in three directions. What do I believe about myself? What do I believe about people? And what do I believe about the world? These three categories give us a practical way to listen for the story beneath behavior. Beliefs about self. Beliefs about self often become deeply personal. They can sound like identity statements. I'm not enough. I'm too much. I'm unwanted. My needs do not matter. I have to earn love. The danger is that a conclusion formed in pain can begin sounding like a fact. But familiarity is not the same as truth. I repeat, familiarity is not the same as truth. Beliefs about others. Beliefs about others influence how we approach closeness. If I believe people leave, I may cling tightly or avoid attachment altogether. If I believe people cannot be trusted, I may interpret ordinary mistakes as betrayal. If I believe vulnerability will be used against me, I may remain emotionally guarded. The belief becomes a prediction. And sometimes we begin living as though the prediction has already come true. Mm. Beliefs about the world. Some beliefs extend beyond self and relationships. They become beliefs about life itself. Beliefs such as the world is unsafe, nothing lasts, I must stay in control. If I relax, something bad will happen. When these beliefs become deeply embedded, the nervous system may remain organized around vigilance, even when circumstances have changed. Belief is not the same as truth. This is an important distinction for us to make. We're not shaming the belief, we're asking what function it served. Perhaps it helped you survive uncertainty. Perhaps it protected you from disappointment. And perhaps it gave you an explanation when you had none. We can honor why a belief developed without allowing it to remain unquestioned forever. Now, here is why beliefs feel so true. Beliefs can become self-reinforcing. Once we expect rejection, we notice signs of rejection quickly. Once we expect danger, ambiguous situations can feel threatening. Once we believe we're not enough, praise may be dismissed while criticism feels convincing. Now, this does not mean the person is choosing distortion. It simply means the mind is trying to create consistency. The familiar story simply becomes easier to recognize than the new one. The belief confirmation cycle. Here is where the cycle can become powerful. A wound contributes to a belief. The belief shapes interpretation. Interpretation influences response. The response affects what happens next, and the outcome can appear to confirm the original belief. For example, the belief is people leave. I become guarded. The other person experiences distance. Connection weakens. The relationship ends. And the belief says, see, people always leave. Understanding the cycle creates room for choice. Belief also shapes emotion. What I believe influences what I feel. Emotion is the next KEWHM stage. It's the next Kristo emotional wound healing model stage. This is why belief comes before emotion in our model. Our emotions are real. There's no doubt about that. Our emotions are as real as can be. But they are often responding not only to the event in front of us, but to what we believe the event means. If I believe distance means abandonment, I may feel fear. And if I believe feedback means failure, I may feel shame. Now, if I believe dependence is dangerous, I may feel anxiety when I need help. Belief helps us explain why the same event can produce different emotional responses. Listen for the belief beneath the reaction. Instead of only asking, why am I reacting this way? Ask yourself, what would I have to believe for this reaction to make sense? What would I have to believe for this reaction to make sense? This is a practical question you can begin using immediately. Immediately. When a reaction feels especially strong, pause. Instead of judging the reaction, become curious. Ask, what would I have to believe for this reaction to make sense? That question right there often reveals the hidden lens. Perhaps if they're quiet, I must have done something wrong. Perhaps if I ask for help, I'll be disappointed. Perhaps if I'm not perfect, I will lose love. The goal is awareness before correction. The goal is awareness before connection. Here's our reflection moment, family. What beliefs have your wounds taught you? And this is the central question that we're asking in this episode. What beliefs have your wounds taught you? What have they taught you about yourself, about other people, about love, about conflict, about asking for help? How about safety? Take your time with these questions. What have your wounds, I ask again, taught you about yourself? What have they taught you about other people, about relationships? What have they taught you about love, conflict? What have they taught you about need? How about what have they taught you about safety? Please, again, as usual, I ask that you do not rush to change the answer or you don't rush to answer these questions. First, simply notice it. Just notice. Because healing begins with honest awareness. Healing begins with honest awareness. Whose voice is this? Did someone teach me this directly? Did I conclude it from what happened? Was it once protective? Is it still true now? Once you identify a belief, ask those questions. Ask other questions. I repeat, whose voice is this? Was it spoken to you? Was it modeled for you? Or did you construct it in order to explain what happened? Next, ask, was this belief once protective? And finally, is it still true now? That last question right there can be difficult. Is it true? Is it still true now? The last question can be difficult, but it creates space between the wound and the future. Though it's a difficult question, is it still true now? It creates space between where you are now, between the wound and the future. A learned belief can be re-examined. A learned belief can be re-examined. This model shows us that awareness creates distance, curiosity creates possibility, and healing creates room for new truth. The hopeful part of this stage, the stage of belief, is that beliefs can be re-examined. They can be examined. We're not trying to erase history. We're not pretending the wound never happened. We're learning that a belief formed in one season does not automatically deserve authority in every season that follows in our lives. Again, I repeat, awareness creates distance. Curiosity creates possibility. And healing creates room for new truth. Your wound is not the final author, by all means, and thank God it's not the final author. Your wound may have written a chapter in your life, in your book, but it does not have to write the ending. Some of the beliefs you carry may have been written during painful chapters of your life, but your wound is not the final author of your story, thank God. You can understand where the belief came from. You can honor the part of you that needed it. And you can begin asking whether a different truth is possible. That's not denial, that's healing. We have now moved from the first four stages of the KEWHM, Kristo Emotional Wound Healing Model journey. We started with experience and moved on to meaning, then wound, and we just completed belief. And now we can see why the sequence matters. What happened was interpreted. What was interpreted could become a wound, and what continued could begin teaching us what to believe. In the next stage, we will explore what those beliefs make us feel. What's coming next? Emotion. If belief is a lens, emotion is what we feel through that lens. Today, we explored the beliefs our wounds can teach us. In the next episode, we move into emotion. We will ask how beliefs influence what we feel and why emotional reactions can make sense when we understand the story underneath them. Belief gives us the lens. Emotion tells us what it feels like to look through it. Emotion tells us what it feels like to look through this lens. What a privilege and honor it has been for you to journey through with me through experience, meaning, wound, and belief. Please remember that behavior is often the language of a wound. Every wound has a story. Every story deserves to be heard. Therefore, listen with compassion, respond with wisdom, and choose healing. I'm Dr. KEWHM, and thank you very much for joining me on When Wounds Speak.